Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar, how to choose between electric chain hoist and electric wire rope hoist. Myself Rahul Mahajan as introduced by this one, our colleague Ms. Cheryl, and myself, uh, we are looking here for all hoist requirements for the cranes as well as monorail applications. As you know, the Hercules hoist has a many variants on your portfolio. The most common types of hoist are electric chain hoist, wire rope hoist, chain pulley blocks, ratchet lever hoist. As you know, the Hercules hoist is known for the different hoist variants. We have a 40 plus products in our portfolio. The most common types of hoist are electric chain hoist, wire rope hoist, and chain pulley blocks, and ratchet lever hoist. The electric chain hoist is a rotating device that lifts lowers the large objects by winding an alloy steel link load chain in a single layer on a pocketed chain wheel and guiding it with a roller and chain guide. The object is hooked using the lower load hook, and the chain that revolves around the wheel is pulled by an electric motor to start the lifting operation. So as you know, these are the four different variants what we have in this one, and similar kind of applications available on the different manufacturers. In the electric wire rope hoist, those are also rotating devices that raise the lower and large things using the wire rope. The rope, which is looped in a single layer on a drum with grooves, is led a ring above the drum. When the wire rope is pulled, uh, please excuse me for a minute's break. Hello everyone. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, let us start. The electric wire rope hoists are rotating devices that raise and lower large things using the wire rope. The rope, which is looped in a single layer on a drum with grooves, is led by a ring above the drum.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So we are talking about the wire rope hoist, and when the wire rope is pulled, it spins around the drum and is raised by a lower load hook. Numerous businesses make use of these simple to use hoists, which may be employed on monorails or UOT cranes. So, what are the electric chain hoist and wire rope hoist advantages, disadvantages, comparison? Let us talk about this. Electric chain hoist and wire rope hoist are two well known yet quite distinctive forms of lifting apparatus. It is preferable to compare wire rope hoist and electric chain hoist in various contexts before making your decision. Electric chain hoist and electric wire rope hoist accomplish the same task, although they operate differently and are made for various materials or loads. The best kind of electric hoist for your application should be chosen when you require a new hoist. What could be the requirement and how it should be the listed? So this is the typical technical specification format where you have to list down your requirements as a capacity, number of holes if it matters, the motor requirement, motor brake requirement, hoisting speed requirement, trolley speed requirements, motor specific motor for this one, what are the number of start stop per hour, or these are the driven by the your particular application. And gear components, what type of gearbox you expect, what type of lubrication you expect, what type of design duty standard you are referring to. These are the main important features where you have to list down and specify to the original equipment manufacturer. These are the factors which they decide the right selection of your equipment based on their application and the size of your workshop or layouts. So if you compare the wire rope hoist and electric chain hoist, start with the wire rope hoist. Wire rope hoist are commonly used in capacity more than above 5 tons. Faster lifting speeds are available for the rope hoist. Wire rope hoist offers a wider array of options. Electric chain hoist. Electric chain hoists are widely used more for application up to 5 tons. Electric chain hoists are usually less expensive than wire rope hoists, rope one with the similar requirements. Again, chain hoists are the true vertical lifts where with no lateral movement of load is provided by electric chain hoist at no extra cost. On the contrary, in the wire rope hoist, you have to specify for the true lift or if the load shift is acceptable for the end user. What are the differences? We have a 9 different uh, parameters where we can compare both the hoist, wire rope hoist and the electric chain hoist. First one is the flexibility. Flexibility in the wire rope hoist are most frequently found in stationary permanent equipment. There are multiple distinct varieties of electric wire rope hoist that uses various drum and motor combination as opposed to electric chain hoist, which are typically a simpler and application. For instance, many drums are used to compound strength while good drums are utilized to boost the lifting precision. In the electric chain hoists are typically more portable, less stationary than wire rope hoists, and they become more adaptable as a result when you need to change the positions when the depositing the loads or when there is a ample space. Basically, the application is the key criteria about this flexibility of the selection of the hoist. Again, second is the main is the capacity. Capacity for the wire rope hoist typically ranging between 1 ton to 90 ton, and nowadays 100-ton hoist are being designed and installed. This implies that you will be more likely to wish to employ wire rope hoist to the greater you required capacity and heavier your typical load. And again, the lift, which is the main criteria to select the hoist. In the electric chain hoist capacity can fluctuate just like a wire rope hoist, but often over a narrower range than wire rope hoist. For lighter loads, typically between 250 kgs to 30 tons, where weight is less, or an issue of electric chain hoist is perfect. Again, the volume. Volume, the wire rope hoist is used as a winding device and rotation of the drum powers the lifting of the wire rope. The primary determinant of a volume is the drum length. The drum length with lengthen as the lifting height rises. The volume of a wire rope hoist is several times or even 10 times greater than that of a chain hoist of the same size. Electric chain hoist, on the contrary, chain is used winding mechanism and the chain wheel's rotation power the chain lifting mechanism directly. The chain wheel has a axial dimension that 1.6 times wider than the chain. So, volume wise, if you consider, wire rope hoist occupy more volume, which results to the less hook approaches. Wire rope hoist lifting height. Again, this is the main criteria where you should one has to consider it depending on the shade size. The drum diameter is narrower, causing the greater amount of steel wire rope to deform. The pressure on the wire rope equivalent to surface causes a greater drop. Elastic deformation is produced by the wire rope twin on the drum. Drum diameter should be increased to prevent the steel wire rope from the deforming and to ensure that force applied does not exceed the allowed stress for the wire rope. As a result, design standard stipulates that the diameter of the electric hoist drum must be less than 20 times that of a steel wire rope. So the height is a constraint, but nowadays for the higher heights, there are twin drum constructions are also available. But it again depending on the available space and budget of a plant. In the electric chain hoist, chain is mostly bearing the tensile stress at the hinge junction between the links because chain is a butt welded steel wire part. Chain wheels are constructed with 5 to 6 nets to lessen the compressive strength of the contact surface between the link and the nest between the link and the sprocket. Resulting higher lift is avoidable in this case because when you use this one, this will directly generate the heat and it will affect on the chain quality. Again, the travel length. In the wire rope hoist, axis center line and the wire rope hoist trolley running track are parallel to each other. So, hook approaches are to be considered during this and depending on the lift of the uh, load, what is the lift you require for that particular load. In electric chain hoist, axis and chain hoist running tracks can have their center lines placed and used at an angle of 90 degrees. Therefore, the traveling length of a chain hoist is greater than that of a wire rope hoist under the same conditions and with the same length of track. Even though the installation and use of the chain hoist axis the running track center line are parallel. The running distance between the substantially is greater because the smaller axial. The influence of the operation distance will be considerably bigger when the lifting height is higher and the drum is longer. So again, when we select the hoist, the travel length also matters, which will utilize your most of the work area. So one has to think of what is the size of the load, what is the travel is required, what is the size of your shade, what is the workable area, and you can utilize the maximum workable area with this material handling solution. Again, the accuracy that is also important in certain application. There are certain applications where hoists are being used for the assembly line of engine or some foundries or some any other power plants for alignment or changing the existing equipments. The wire rope hoist, the drum is wound along with the axle line for the raising. As a result, the hook will cause horizontal displacement along the axis direction of the electric hoist. Greater lifting height, more loops wound into the wire rope on the drum, and increased hook horizontal displacement. That is one of the cause where one has to take care and think of before selecting the such hoist. For the electric chain hoist, no number of the size of the lifting height The hook may be precisely identified by moving up and down along with the chain's plumb line. So it will be more balanced and which will have a better hook approach. Accuracy is more in this electric chain hoist because chain links are calibrated. Chain is wound on the pocketed chain wheels and it is guided through the chain guide. So precision movement of a chain is better than the wire of hoist. Again, this is a tuning device. One has to think about the rigidity of a hoist. Wire of hoist has certain rigidity. When no load of a wire rope easily slips out of the drum and sheave of the group, especially small weight. The hook has advantages of a lightweight, more prone to slip out of a group, cause disorder, cable fault. Cable fault means the change in the entanglement of a wire rope. And when the load of a wire rope rise, the weight falls to the support, steel wire load tends disappears and phenomenon also occurs. In the electric chain hoist, there is a no stiffness to the chain, which is hinged. Thus, the aforementioned wire rope hoist disadvantage do not apply to the chain hoist. Again, the service life. The wire rope hoist quite fine. The service life of a rope is significantly decreased in environments with a high temperature, acidic or alkaline mist or humidity. Wire ropes are manufactured from the small size of wire and it has a typical shape of with the core steel or fiber. So here the servicing and notice its service life is servicing is required. It is very important, and for the wire rope hoist it is only visible, and because of the surface of a wire ropes you can see that how it is the what is the condition of that particular strands. In the electric chain hoist, the chain hoist cross section is substantially bigger. Chain's cross section is substantially bigger than that of a wire. Even in a severe environment, its life will not be significantly impacted. This has a many aspects to think of, because if you see safety and the factor of safety of each of certain components, it varies. For the wire rope hoist, overload safety device is optional and it is a costly matter. Factor of safety differs as per the application. For the wire rope hoist, you have to select based on the class, duty class, your load pattern, etc. And for that different duty class, the wire ropes hoist, for the wire ropes, the factor of safety is differing. So selection is based on the again application. The higher lifts rope twist causes more damage to the hoist. So for this rope, one is the strength, one is its property of a twisting property. So depending on the length of a height of a lift, you have to decide what type of rope is required, what is the strength is required, what is life you are expecting, what is the factor of safety, etc. has to be defined during the selection itself. Jerk loads loads withstand to some extent in the wire rope hoist, and the load lifting is because the load lifting is distributed across the drum span. In the electric chain hoist, if you see the what are the safeties there, overload safety device is in inbuilt. Many of the hoists have a slipping clutch mechanism. Factor of safety is moderate for the chain, and chain calibration indicates the replacement frequency. So whenever you do the preventive maintenance and corrective or any corrections you have to done, so these are the mandatory things which are mentioned in our operating and maintenance manual. For the wire rope hoist, there are no certain things are mentioned or we cannot measure it because the rope elongates and the measurement of such elongation may not be possible in the regular maintenance practice. But in the chain hoist, you can have the calibration device, you can measure the chain pitch, chain the diameter, what is the elongation is there, and you have a data of that one. Chain elongation more than 10% and FOS is always more than 6 in the chains. That is an added advantage. The surface treatment chain is applied to chain ensure high resistance to wear, aging and corrosion. There are two types of chains available in the market. One is the surface treated, one is the surface treated plus the galvanized one. So depending on the application, those available chains you can use. Although if the galvanized chain is not available, you can use the surface treatment chain in any of the environment. That gives the flexibility to shift the equipment from one place to another environment. In the wire rope hoist, you have to think because of the rope, the size, the parts used, etc. In the electric chain hoist, chain is guided in the pockets of a wheel and guided in a chain guide prevent the twist jerk load to be avoided in the electric chain hoist. That is why we are saying that it depending on the height of lift of particular load. So now the confused situation when you want to select as the hoist, because purchasers are the most important authorities where they should have all this data with them, and then they can go with the selection and for the offerings of the hoist. Always purchaser is looking for the L1 kind of thing, but sometimes you have to see with the L1 means lowest offer with the features what you are expected, and those features are depending on the different type of application. As I explained you, there are 9 points where you have to think of. You have to um, think for the your technical specification. You have to freeze it. Under the same condition, the choice ultimately depends on the end user, because chain hoist has advantages in terms of lifting height, running distance, placement, other aspects. Because of the prolonged service life, minimal potential risk, and lengthy service life, it is better suited to adverse weather in the interim. The most suitable electric hoist for your application will boost both the efficiency of your material handling and the safety of the hoist operation, in addition to saving your money. What to do when the circumstances call for balance? How can choose between a wire rope hoist and electric chain hoist when their capacities and the prices are similar? So, ask yourself the following question to overcome the confused situation. Do you currently have a wire rope hoist or electric chain hoist? Does your employee require training for the new electric hoist you purchased? Is it reasonable to shoulder the cost and suffer from the poorer production that comes with the inexperience? Will the hoist continue to suit your needs when you add heavier and larger loads? Does the load loose chain conflict with the low how the job is laid out? So in the chain hoist, there is one more thing. For the higher lifts, if the chain is loose, then you require a chain collector. For that also, you have to think of what type of height of lift is required and what type of work environment is there. If this is a already assembly shop, is that there is a ample space for this type of activity. But it is a maintenance kind of activity in a refinery where there is a pipelines and there is no place to move the load, and the hanging chain is causing a conflict, then you have to think of chain collector is required not required. So from that perspective you have to select whatever you require. Is the inspection procedure for the wire rope and load chain is a part of preventive maintenance to decide the life of operations? Is production activity stable and there are no anticipated modifications to the layout? The selection will lead to the structural changes in the plant shed. You have to ask this because many times the production activity changes over the period. The structure is remains same, and down the line the assembly shops are converted into the foundry is converted into logistic, like that. So suppose you are changing your layouts, then at that same time you have to select particular equipment suitable to that particular activity. So based on your available layout, shade size, and the application. The customized solution has to be selected. So depending on that, whether it is an electric chain hoist or a wire rope hoist, depending on the points what we discussed earlier, you have to consider and select. Then, what are the replacement cost of the wire rope and load chains covered in the capex or the consumables? Many times, what happens? Changing the rope is a costlier, so chalalo type of thing can be done. Or in the chains, replacement by the lower grade or not buying from the original equipment manufacturer. That is also part of a purchase process. So capex means every time it will have some certain amount given for this one, and purchaser or maintenance people can purchase it. For the consumables, there are always a cost cutting kind of thing, and it has to be mentioned and it has to be reported rightly. So for these two types where the replacement is required, that has to be distinguished and established right procedure for the preventive maintenance or corrective actions. Then, how long after the installation does the end user still needs customization? In sometimes, for the particular application, you purchase the hoist. After certain decisions, if you change the production line is changed, or product line is changed, or application is changed, then you need to customize it because of depending on the headroom or side constraint of this hoist, or the path is changed, or the hoist was installed on the straight path, now it is being installed on the curvature path. So those kind of customization has to be done based on the requirements. That also affects the selection of the hoist. So better is that you have to select the product catalog which is readily available, and the customization has to be envisaged during the application. If it is change in the application, you have to consult your original equipment manufacturer and get consulted for the selection of a right equipment. Either it is a wire rope hoist or it is a electric chain hoist, depending on the application. I am emphasizing always on the application because that is the most important criteria to select any hoist for your service. The following is the preferred as a criteria for the final decision. Important is the application. Then it is a capex equipment. Maintenance cost. For the wire of hoist, you have to establish the maintenance cost, and for the electric chain hoist, you have to establish the maintenance cost. What is the return on investment? What if it is a monorail application, or it is a crane application, or it is a customized application as automated storage and retrieval system or floor operated stacker application, because both hoists can be used on these applications, but you have to see the constraint, design constraint for this particular application. As in the on the jeep crane application, it is another area where people always confuse to use which type of hoist to be used for the jeep crane. And nowadays, automation is now need of the hour. Many customers, many installations have a manipulator there. They have their own constraint and applications. So for the suitability of the manipulator and the capacity, you have to select particular hoist. So hoist where you are going to install, that has to be selected based on these are the important criteria where you can select the hoist. So as selection based on all those points, considering budget, application, maintenance cost, return of investment, application on the crane or monorail, or it is a customized application. Electric hoist is the first choice up to 1 ton to 5 ton in shorter lift of height. Shorter lift of height is because where these hoists are mostly single pole or double pole, where the loose chain of a higher lift cannot be accommodated in the chain collectors. So, for the need of the hour, if you have the space constraint, if you have an application constraint, if you select the electric chain hoist for the higher lift, then chain collector is mandatory, and their installation on that travel mechanism is also has to be done. Hercules have done that thing for the certain applications where 80 meter, 90 meter lifts are there, and we have provided the separate chain collector mechanism, chain collector mounted on the travel mechanism. But depending on the constraint, the size of this one, the precision is required, the handling, the change of the hoist during the maintenance. So that is all is a favor of electric chain hoist. In the wire rope hoist, for the higher capacities and higher lifts also, where wire rope hoist has a cost wise is costlier than the electric chain hoist, but it has own advantages. So depending on the capacity and the lift, one has to select the hoist for their application. In this hoist selection, again, if you see choosing when choosing the hoist, keep following things in the mind. We talk about the capacity, lifting height, speed of the hoist application, application in the production, maintenance, warehouse, foundry, heat treatment, painting, and plating. These are the main areas where the hoist are being used. For each area, the application is different, the mechanism required is different, number of starts are different, side clearances, headroom, painting, etc. on the hoist is different for the each category here, what we have mentioned. So important is the application. The following information would be useful to include the selecting the hoist, operation frequency, usage of the hours and usage pattern. Again, this leads to the one hoist capacity calculator. One has to use it, and again select based on the operational frequency. Type of operation, inching or continuous. Inching means the assembly line, continuous means where there is a foundry is there or heat treatment plants are there or painting and plating plants are there. For the wire rope hoist, type of reeving is also important because because the handling of a lower hook block is also a big issue during the selection. In the electric chain hoist, operator can stand near the hoist and see the alignments and do the, because the lower hook blocks are designed such a way that operator can in one hand can have the pendant and one hand he can grab the uh, lower hook block. In the wire rope hoist, it is not possible to do that kind of thing. So during application itself, where the operator requires to stand away from the load, then this wire rope hoist has to be selected. So again, application is on the crane, monorail, or fixed one. Hoist travel path, straight or curved beams as details. Operating environment, dusty, acidic, flammable, higher ambient temperature, cryogenic application, etc. That is also important while you select the hoist in particular condition. For example, the wire of hoist is to be used in the uh, paint shop. When you use in the paint shop, there is an environment have some sort of fumes. Correct? Those affect on the wire rope strands. For the electric chain hoist, you have a galvanized chain or surface treatment chain, which will have a less effect of the particular environment of that one. So that is also important thing when you select the hoist. Then again, number of hours running, number of start stop, load geometry, load lifting pattern, hoist handling operator also is important. Number of hours used per day strictly for the hoisting, lifting and lowering. Average weight of load lifted in a day. Those are the important factors for the both the hoist. Number of hours of running, that is applicable for the electric chain hoist as well as a wire rope hoist. But if you number of hours running are more, then what is the hoist to be selected is the wire rope hoist. And for the where are the number of start stop hinge operations are there, the electric chain hoist is has to be selected because it has a precision in their particular application. Chain is a pocket, is run over the pocketed wheels. So precision is always there, and start stop required for the precision of application. So that is also one criteria. Load geometry. Load geometry causes the sway in the load. For the wire rope hoist, it can accommodate certain sway. In the electric chain hoist, load sway cannot be accommodated, and it will damage the chain guide or the chain stripper wherever it is. So according to that, you have to see the application and select it. Load lifting pattern again is important as a APM calculations or IS standard where the class 1, 2, 3 are mentioned. For that particular, they have mentioned about the running hours per day. Based on that, one has to select it. Otherwise, what will happen? The more wear and tear of these two parts, and there will be a replacement frequency is reduced and maintenance cost will increase. So these are the typical important thing where one has to know. Everyone knows about this about material handling industry, but still one has to see that if it is the classification is there, again safe working load and working load limit has to be differ depending on the classification. Again, duty class. For each classification, standard specifies the duty class. Again, based on that duty class, you say you have to select it. So this will help you to reduce your off time of the hoist, maintenance cost, replacement, and effective efficiency of the operator. The two parameter determine the duty class of the hoist. When we see the duty class of the hoist, it is the running time and the duty class. Percentage of the load you lift in the particular operating time. So it again distinguished as a light duty, middle duty, heavy duty, and very heavy duty kind of thing. So operating time and the percentage of a load lifted are the most important factors for the selection of a hoist. Depending on this, you have to select electric chain hoist or wire rope hoist. Certain design standards are being followed for this one, conforming to APM 9.511, and in the Indian standard for the wire rope electric chain hoist is a 165147. And for a wire rope hoist, normally we follow the IS standard 3938. Again, the common practices of a typical load lifting and application. When we talk about the sway of the load and the particular application, certain thing has to be considered during the selection. In the wire rope hoist, the cross pulling type kind of thing, where it will have some effect on the related component. In the electric chain hoist also, it has certain things. So load has to be lifted in a vertical and in a free motion, not at this one. Suppose you have a certain type of application, then you have to intimate during the ordering of your one. This angle theta. What is the thing? Because certain application requires this type of requirements. Then that time you have to mention it, and then original equipment manufacturer will give you the advice based on these requirements. Certain requirements where we have to see that the electric chain hoist are only the solution, not the wire rope hoist. If it is a jeep cranes are there, if you see these pictures, then it will have a boom length, and that particular boom length you will have a maximum work area covered with the electric chain hoist. If you use the wire rope hoist in certain kind of thing, although it is a smaller capacity, but it will occupy your work area. Again, in the LR crane system or in any other underslung crane system, you have to select the hoist rightly based on this one. If it is a DGOT, OT cranes, wire rope hoists are preferred, and certain where the setup like is that where the light rail system is there, where light loads are being, light effort is required for this application. Then the wire instead of wire rope hoist, the electric chain hoist has to be selected. There are the certain applications where nowadays electric chain hoist as well as the wire rope hoist are also being used. But one has to understand the application and apply the material handling solution for this one. Suppose if you are using the uh, floor operator stacker with the chain hoist. Chain hoist has a more safety features. In the wire rope hoist, you have to provide those safety features and use it. Again, the hoists are not meant for to use the uh, guided mechanism to lift the load. So again, one has to think of what are the safety features given in the hoist, and you have to demand it for that particular thing. Based on this product standard product brochures, if you see the safety features are inbuilt in electric chain hoist and other for the hoist, those are on demand. So based on this criteria, one has to select it based on your capex requirement, budgeted requirement, application, running time, and the the operators who are going to use these hoists, because the training required to handle those hoists for to the operators is most important thing. They are the first caretaker of your requirement. So you have to understand their psychology, which hoist is suitable for their application, and he finds it is the best suitable practice for that type of his day-to-day work. Again, if you have certain kind of thing of applications where the curvature paths are there, where the speed is high, then again one has to think whether that hoist selected will travel on this curvature path and will have a less sway in the load. Again, the brand Indef, brand Indef is more than 60 years of experience, market leader in hosting solution, huge product portfolio, product quality and customer service, large distribution network, and most trusted brand. So when we selected the hoist, so we think of all those points and we suggest solution to our customers. So I also request you all to go through all these points. You think of those points, you have to mention those points in your requirements, and you have to select it, so choice will be easier. And if you go with this one, the as I mentioned you, the electric chain hoist capacity and the lift are the important kind of thing, and for the wire rope hoist also lift and the capacity, again depending on the work area available, application, and your expectation. Based on this, many times nowadays electric chain hoists are more optimized in the design, motor kilowatts, speeds, higher speeds, and which will have a less vibrations. So all kind of things are being innovated in particular hoist design. So electric chain hoist as well as wire rope hoist are the two competitors of one of the other for the certain kind of thing of application. Based on this, you have to select it, you have to prefer it, and you have to mention all those points. Consider during your selection. Uh, if you are giving the requirement to our equipment manufacturer, and most important, you have to involve your all our stakeholders who are going to use it. As I explained you, the workman is where the production activity, maintenance activity, and the service activity as well. So I I conclude with this, and thank you very much for listening patiently about this one. I hope all those points are relevant to your requirement, and it will help you to select the electric chain hoist versus the wire rope hoist. Thank you very much.